Okay. You are here since 1 month in Germany, hiking in the forest. What have you noticed the difference between wildlife here and in Montana?
Well, obviously there's a lot more wildlife in Montana than there is here. The forests are really beautiful here, well cared for. A lot of the forests that I've seen are what we call a monoculture, which means there's only really one kind of tree, and that's not a healthy place for wildlife because it only feeds certain kinds of animals and birds. So the places that I've seen here in Germany that have a mixture of trees and foliage tends to be more conducive or supports more wildlife than the just all straight pine forests. In Montana, we have lots of actual wilderness, and so the animals that live in the wilderness have very little human exposure, and the ones that are more towards the fringe have some exposure, like where I live. I live right on the edge of the Selway Wilderness in northwest Montana. So we get a lot of animals that come down out of the wilderness and go through the woods where I live. There's things like a lot of predators, the mountain lions, the wolves, coyotes, a lot of birds of prey, owls nested right in my yard, and all the prey animals, the deer and the elk and moose are pretty prevalent, as all the small animals. So what we have is, because we have the monoculture, the culture of trees that are mixed with the wild type plants, we have a lot of wildlife there that supports the entire ecosystem of the grazers, the seed eaters, and then for those that prey on them. I do know that the more wild the area is in Germany, the more balance of nature that's there with animals and birds. However, it's been so long that the animals have been hunted here, and it's so far away to truly wild areas that the animals have developed a different characteristics, which makes it very hard to have an interaction with them.
So why should people go to the wilderness classes here in Germany?
Because Germany, I believe, from what I've seen, is on the brink of a rebounding of wildlife coming back, the balance of nature being restored so that the plants will support the smaller animals, which support the bigger animals, the bigger birds of prey. And I believe that if people attend a wilderness class here, they're going to learn to be in harmony with the actual cycles of nature here. And it's one of the things that I try to stress in my work, is that we humans have separated ourselves from nature. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we've created not only an environment, but a lifestyle that is very destructive to the human being. With diseases and mental problems and all these different things that are negatives in our society are caused, in my opinion, by our separation from what I call the circle of life, from being separate from the cycles of nature that are normal. By people attending a class here, they're going to become acquainted with and take the time to actually experience the nature that is here and be part of the regeneration of the cycle of life, because the human beings are actually a very important part of that circle of life. We're not separate from it. We never were supposed to be. And we are finding now that as we get back into that circle and find our place, what we as a human contribute to the good of all, we start to experience the balance of nature coming back into our own experience.
Oh, great. And what would be the impact to the wildlife in Germany if people are connected to the circle of life that we call nature?
You destroy what you fear. And if people don't understand nature, then they fear it. If you see a coyote, you don't know whether to be amazed and wonder or to fear it. Oh, is it going to attack me? Is it going to bite my dog? The more you learn about something, the more at home you are with something, the more you love it and protect it, because you see the beauty of it and the balance. So here in Germany, I believe that with a lot of interest, especially with the younger people, in finding their place back in that circle of life, of how do they relate to the hawk and the owl, or the bussard, or the deer. I've seen 2 deer since I've been here, and in Montana I would see 20 to 40 deer in a morning. That's because of the abundance, but it's also because the whole balance of nature is still there supporting all those different animals. If I'm not in harmony with the animals in Montana, I wouldn't see that many. But because I live in a place that is part of the circle of nature, the cycle of nature, and I honor that and honor my place in it, then I have this constant interactions with animals that become individuals. And when I have individual animals, I want to protect them. And I think that's the same thing that'll happen here as people start to experience the amazing wonder of interacting with the natural world. We find that we're a relative of the natural world. And when we're a relative, we protect ourselves, protect our loved ones. And so as you fall in love with nature, you'll protect it. As you fall in love with nature, your neighbors will begin to see that you live a richer life. And they will become curious as to, well, why is his life or her life better than mine? What does that person have living in the same area, but you're having interactions with a much bigger circle of life than what they're having? So hopefully that'll just spread, continue to spread, and grow in all of Europe. I think Germany has a step forward in that, because there has been a lot of care taken and awakening to the laws of nature, the way things should be in harmony.
Oh, thanks for sharing your wisdom and your opinion of wildlife in Germany and in America, and giving us a clue what we can do for the wildlife here in our place. Thank you, Jim.